I need a pencil, a piece of paper, and a ruler.
I need a ruler, a window, and a gardener.
I need a gardener, a hoe, and a pair of binoculars.
I need a pair of binoculars, a telescope, and a yard of string.
This is Improv in Real Life. I'm Jude Treder-Wolff. In this podcast, we'll explore how improv can help us navigate the speed of life through conversations with experts who are wise, hilarious, and deeply human.
It's July 3rd, 1990, and I'm at a Best Western hotel in Youngstown, Ohio, which is right on the border of Pennsylvania and a few miles from the entrance to the Pennsylvania Turnpike. I'm waiting for my brother, his wife, and their 3 kids to meet us there so that we could start our trip to Wisconsin, which is about a 9-hour drive, for a family reunion. Now, they make this trip between New Jersey, where they live, and Wisconsin at least once a year, sometimes more. They always stay in the same Best Western. They have the same rest stops along the way. They know this routing so well. So we feel very confident, my husband and I, caravanning with them, and we're looking forward to it. We can ride in each other's cars and keep each other company and make it really fun. But they don't show up. They don't get there for dinner. They don't get there at 9 o'clock. They don't show up. 11 o'clock, the phone rings. My sister-in-law says the van broke down. We are towed, and now the van is being repaired, and they say we can get back on the road, but we just don't know what time. So if we're not there at 7 in the morning and you want to take off, it's okay. Well, at 7 in the morning, they show up. Everybody showers. We have breakfast. I get in the van with my sister-in-law. My brother gets in the car with my husband, and my sister-in-law and I are in the lead, and we take off. We go through the toll booth at the Pennsylvania Turnpike and wait, and they don't come through the toll booth. We wait 20 minutes. They don't come. They were behind us. They're not behind us. We double back to the hotel to see if something happened. Because remember, it's 1990. We can't call. We can't text. There's no way to communicate with them. Except I gave the kids walkie-talkies for Christmas. And one of the kids is with us and the other is in the other car. So we could talk back and forth between the cars because this is prehistoric times. My nephew keeps clicking the walkie-talkie saying, I think I hear my dad. I think I hear my dad. And I know he doesn't hear his dad. I don't know what he's hearing. My sister-in-law and I are waiting at the entrance now. And I say, we got to kick this up to a higher power. So I go and I see a phone booth at the underpass underneath the turnpike. And I call the highway department. This guy answers, Officer O'Brien. I say, Officer O'Brien, are there any accidents that have happened between Youngstown, Ohio and the Pennsylvania Turnpike entrance or anywhere in this part of the state? And he says, nope, there haven't been any accidents. I don't see any problems. And he says, what's going on? And I say, well, my husband and my brother were in a car behind us and they have disappeared off the face of the earth and we don't know how to reach them. If they call you, will you tell them that I called you and that we're waiting for them at the entrance to the Pennsylvania Turnpike? And he says, I sure will. So I go back to the car and my sister-in-law and I we're making a strategy. And she says, well, when Ralph figures out after all the times we've made this trip, that they're on the wrong highway, he's just going to say, we're not wasting time. Let's just keep going. We're all going to the same destination. Now, remember, we can't call them and make this plan. We just have to try to figure out what the men in our lives are thinking right now. And I say, well, if they figure out that they're way off track, Nick, my husband, is not going to keep going forward. He's going to go back to the place where we were supposed to meet. He's sort of known for this kind of thing. He's going to go back to the thing that was agreed upon. And she says, I think Ralph could talk him out of it. And I say, I don't think so. So we wait another hour. I go back. I call the highway department. Officer O'Brien. I say, Officer O'Brien, it's me again. We still didn't find our husbands. There's still no accidents. He says, no, still no accidents. And I say, well, what do you think happened? What's your theory? And he says, I think when they get to Toledo, they're going to realize that they missed the turnpike entrance. And then they're going to have to make a decision. Now, you know your husbands. And I go, yes, we sure do. And he says, well, I think you should wait until 11 o'clock. And then if they don't show up by 11 o'clock, just meet them in Chicago. I'm so frustrated by this. I'm an impatient person by nature. And this is 90 more minutes we're supposed to wait, just wait, while the kids are freaking out and we're just worried. So I don't even tell my sister-in-law about the 11 o'clock prediction. At 10:50, she looks at me and I look at her and we say, let's go. Let's just go to Chicago. We're going. And we peel out. We've had it. And as we peel out, my nephew, who's looking out the back of the van, says, I see them. They're behind us. And they're clicking the walkie-talkie and they pull up next to us. And they're looking at us with these really angry faces. And I say, wait a minute, they're mad at us? We were the ones that were doing the right thing. We were where we were supposed to be. And so she says, I don't understand. Why would they be mad at us? But they're glaring at us. And we all pull over to the next rest stop so we could process this whole thing. And what happened was O'Brien was 100% correct. When they realized they were at Toledo, they turned around and he approximated what time they would get to where we were. So when we peeled out, they thought we saw them and were so mad at them that we just took off. We were like, fine, good. And we just took off and we weren't even going to process it with them. Everybody thought we were mad at each other until we talked it all out. And of course, I had to call our marriage counselor, the highway department, and he says, Officer O'Brien. And I say, you were right. You were 100% right. Thank you so much. You kept me from losing my mind. And he says, I hope you never again lose your husbands. And I think about this story a lot because, well, first of all, it wouldn't happen today because we have all these ways of communicating that are electronic and immediate. And what would be happening is Google Maps would be saying, in a mile, turn right. In a mile, turn right. It would be giving them so many clues is that you're not where you're supposed to be. Rerouting. So what we had to do was rely on good old-fashioned relationships and try to get into each other's heads and be patient, which I'm not. And there was so many layers of complexity to this kind of thing. So travel is like that. Travel is one of the best ways to think about our need for control and the reality of complexity, because there's the plans you make, you've allocated your resources to those plans, you've timed it all out, you've made predictions based on that. And then when one thing goes wrong, everything after that starts to cascade into other kinds of problems that you could not predict. We need a different set of muscles than we would if things went as planned. My guest today is Paul Z. Jackson, who's done work around complexity using improv, created the Applied Improv Network, worked with so many people around finding in the moment the responses that are the most adaptable, most agile, and creative. I love this conversation so much, and I think you will too. I hope you enjoy. If you enjoy stories like this, head over to Spotify and check out Funny Story with Jude Treder-Wolff. They're true stories from my life, often told live on stage. Thanks for listening.
This podcast is brought to you by LifeStage. LifeStage provides opportunities for people to gain skills and knowledge for navigating today's uncertain world. The capacity for creativity, connection to new ideas and other people, collaboration, and community building. For more information, visit lifestage.me.
I'm so excited to welcome my guest today, Paul Z. Jackson, who I have admired for so many years because he started this whole ball rolling. He started the whole Applied Improv Network, which brought together improvisers who use improv in real life situations from around the world to be connected and part of a community. Thank you so much for that, Paul, and thank you for joining us today.
My pleasure. Lovely to be with you, Jude. It's a good 20 plus years since that all began, and we didn't know when we started it what it would become.
It did blossom so much since I started in 2008 is the first time I attended a conference. And I was blown away by the warmth and welcoming energy of that group of professionals from everywhere. And I was a total stranger, but I didn't feel like a stranger with them. Which brings me to this whole topic of your book and your work. The topics we want to hit on today really are summed up by your book about improv making life easier. And this is really the setup of your book, Life Pass.
That's right. So the book's called Easy, and the whole idea was to gather thoughts on improv. What was it? What is it? What does it do? And to do that, I arranged the things that I could find around this acronym, Life Pass.
I'd love for you to go through the acronym as it is in the book for everybody, even though we won't have time to go through every concept. But I also would like you to go through the original idea, which was Star Trek, because I am insanely a Star Trek fan. Unless you don't want to, but I would love to hear what your Star Trek idea was.
It was the same ideas, but sometimes I'd begin the phrase with a different letter. So
right.
I could organize it as Star Trek, but it didn't work out quite as well as Life Pass.
It's very fun that you mentioned it, so it must have been important to you in some way.
It's difficult to get acronyms right.
It is. And you got 2 T's in there. So that's.
Yeah, we've got 2 S's in LifePass. Shall I go through them very briefly?
Love it.
Okay, so let go is the L, and improv, we're letting go of plans, of unhelpful emotions, all sorts of things that we might want to let go of so we can respond better in the moment. I is for inhabiting the moment. We want to be fully present here and now. The F is for freedom within structure. Everything has structures, and those structures are the rules and regulations, boxes within which there's always freedom. And it's interesting to explore the freedoms, but they always go together. E is for embrace uncertainty. This is the one we're going to be focusing on, I think. And maybe it's the hardest one, so a good pick. It's not always easy to embrace uncertainty, but perhaps we could shake hands with it. Then we have P for play to play. There's a playfulness in improv that we want to reach and enjoy, experience flow. We're familiar with playing to win. Playing to play is about exploring all the aspects of the game, not just aiming to win it. The A is accept and build. And anyone that's encountered improvisation will know the regulation that we contractually are obliged to mention the words yes and. For me, the words yes and are not as important as the concept, which is accepting and then building. So call that accept and build. First of the S's is short turn taking. My turn, your turn, my turn based on your turn. And from that, we co-create new things emergently together. And S for spotting successes. We want to know what's working, what we're doing, and discard the things that are not working as quickly and gently and elegantly as possible so that we can amplify things that are working, getting closer to what we want, whether on stage or off.
Those encompass everything there is about change and about making your life happen. If you can apply those concepts, we can go into situations with a sense of possibility rather than constantly being afraid. And you mentioned something in many of your materials that I've read before, but I was really prepping for our conversation about how improv is, especially applied improv, is one of the best preparations for the complexity of life. If you want to explore ideas of complexity, and I just want to introduce this idea because of the mental health side of things, which is most of my world of expertise that I merged with improv as I learned about it, is that every change you make, let's say you stop smoking, your whole social life changes. And when your social life changes, you might feel very lonely. You might feel so disoriented. Even though you're healthier, you're maybe not happier. That's a simple mental health thing that is very complex. And in helping people make any kind of change, they're linking to lots of other interrelated changes. So complexity is part of grief. It's part of every kind of change when it comes to being a human being and living in the world. And then these macro changes that we're dealing with the world changing at an accelerated pace with technology and so forth. So I wonder if you could just touch on or explore as long as you want to this idea about how improv is so effective at helping us deal with complexity.
Yes, I agree with that. It's, for me, a more realistic way of addressing and engaging with the world. The world is complex. We'd love it to be simpler than it is, that every story had a happy ending. We know what's going to happen. Things are predictable. And we often operate as if that were the case. But because, in my view at least, it isn't, we live in a complex world, then we're not approaching the world with the best tools that are offered to us. And I think the improv tools, as it turns out, are a phenomenally good set of life skill tools. So we're all improvisers. Everyone improvises every day. If we're having a conversation, we're off script most of the time. It's not a special thing that's just the preserve of a few theatrical specialists and comedic stars. It's available to all of us. Theatre is one of the applications, and one that's been written about, studied, and that many of us are aware of. But it's only one application, and some of these other richer life applications like therapy, coaching, teamwork, creativity are also available to the improv skills. And what we can do as applied improvisers is put vocabulary to what we all do anyway, articulate what's going on, and build the skills. We can practice some of these skills so that we're better at them as we deal with life's richness and complexity in all its varieties.
You have this great quote that says, we're trading the illusion of control for the reality of influence. So I'd love for you to share more about that. And maybe we could do an exercise or a game that demonstrates that idea, because that's the uncertainty idea. But the illusion of control it's just an important concept that I don't think a lot of people really think how deeply that is how we deal with our fear, is what we think we can control things.
Yes.
And it is an illusion. So
Yes.
Continue.
Yes. So I wrote that about in 2015 in one of my books. We like the idea that we're in control. In many ways, a very satisfying illusion. And I'm not against it. I think it has its uses. We like the idea that we're in control. I'm in control. It's neat. It's comforting. It gives us a sense of the job has been done. And that appeals to a laziness that we all have, because we can't attend to everything afresh every time. But it doesn't serve us well in this area where we're on the edge of complexity or big significant change. So we can illustrate in improvisation that this is the case, that control is an illusion. We can see that very clearly in activities. So if we do a simple, well-known improvisational activity with that lens, then we can see what the difference would be between control and its illusional nature, and the reality, which we do have influence, we have agency, we have a big say in what's going to happen, but the limited one. Should we do that now?
We should do that now.
Okay. Well, I know that you're going to know this one. We're going to do a story, a word at a time.
Love it.
Yeah. And if you want to experiment with it, I know you're experienced at this, you could experiment on the one hand with I know the story I want to tell, holding on to this control, or you could relax that, let go of that illusion of control, and see what happens if you accept that you are influencing it, but in an equal way with your partner, your co-storyteller. All
right. So I have done this game before, and yet I'm going to try to do it as if I've never done it before.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to try to control it in some way.
Yeah, try and control it. That's the thing. You've learned how not to do that.
Yes.
Bring back I can control this story. It's mine. It's going where I want it.
Yes.
Which people hold on to very strongly in the classes and sometimes on stage. Do you like to have a topic or a word, or just straight into a story?
Let's do one where we just jump into a story starting with one word, and let's give it a title so that helps with trying to control it.
Okay.
The title is Something's Wrong with My Laptop.
Something's wrong with my laptop. And would you like to start? Would you like me to start?
You can start.
My
laptop
is
crazy.
It's
so
crazy.
I
am
going
to
go
into
the
wilderness.
Period. Now
I'm
really
frenzied
because
it's
so
upsetting.
It
a
insane
situation
that
my
whole
computer
situation
has
driven
me
out
of
my
mind.
Period.
Hooray.
All right, so I'm going to talk about the illusion of control thing, because I was trying, of course, I did just have a little glitchiness in my actual laptop. So that was a real thing. And it was different to do this exercise and try to hold on to a narrative. And you were very supportive. It's like, I'm going to let her kind of hold on to that narrative. It seemed to me like you weren't really trying to drive the narrative in any way. But I definitely was making choices trying to drive the narrative, which is quite different than how I'd usually play it. So it's an interesting idea that even if you know to let go of control, it's very easy to just try and say, just do it my way.
Should we do that where we're both trying to take control of it? Because I think you were right. I was being my usual supportive self.
You were being so supportive. You made it very easy for me to just drive that car down my crazy road.
We'll each have our own secret idea and both try and control it.
Okay, so I'm going to look around my room here and I'm going to look at a word and use that word to be our starting word.
Yeah.
I'm going to look at the word lamp.
Okay, you begin.
That
Lamp
has
got
the
price.
room.
It's
Ridiculous.
I
Hate.
it
So.
much.
Really.
It's
The
time
of
selling
the
lamp.
it's
Ready
to
auction.
my
Hope
was
to
get,
comfortable.
but
Now
no,
it's
not
staying
in
this.
house.
we reached some sort of
So, I would love
agreement
to know
on that.
what was your hidden narrative about. I can tell you exactly what my quote backstory was.
Go
I
on.
was getting a divorce and I was like, I'm getting rid of everything that reminds me of my ex. That was just what I made up.
It's not too far from mine, which was I don't like it, so I'm going to sell it.
Yes, you didn't have quite an emotional a reason for it, but it's
No.
got to go. It's got to. So that's so funny. We both were like, that lamp has got to go. You know, just talking about when people need or want to control the narrative and using this game, this exercise, I was working with a very respectable group of professionals. And there were people in there that were administrators of a big organization, it was a healthcare organization, that said, I don't do and. I don't do the. I don't do articles like that. And we had to do a whole big unpacking of why won't you just support the sentence? This is so powerful, this exercise, to bring out what people bring to an idea of just creating a sentence, a little story with other people. If you so need not only to control the narrative, but your status, things like that.
That's a great point, that they're not just controlling the story. The control of the story is to show their control of the group or of the room. So letting go of control as a skill that you have developed and that we're teaching to others, and it applies to more than just the single activity that you're doing it with. It's a general learning. You know, we can do a variation of that game in a minute that will extend the idea. But I want to mention another activity that we can't do with two people online, but I'm sure you and many of the listeners will know it, where you count between you in a group from 1 to 20 in sequence of numbers. And if two people speak at the same time, you go back to the beginning. And if people listen very carefully to each other, attentive to the signals, you can get from 1 to 20. And it's an accomplishment to do it. But if the group's not in sync with each other, then you can be going back to the beginning for minutes, hours, or days at a time. And I've seen leaders who are so keen on control or so unable to let go of control that they're pointing to who will go next and conducting the count have to be stopped.
That's something I have not seen, but I can understand that in a work situation where people are, so their illusion of control and their reality of agency are merged. Well, no, their idea of control, I should say. There's no illusion there. They actually do believe they can control it. But of course, that sabotages the whole point of it. I'll just look to you to tell me when to go.
And it's illustrative of what will happen to the team. There'll be no independent leadership or thought within it. Everyone's waiting for the boss to tell them what to do. And the boss will eventually collapse from overwhelm.
Well, and also that particular boss or any boss like that is not going to really not going to let you have your own ideas, most likely, but definitely won't let you make a mistake without, it will be tough. It'll be tough. Yeah, there's a need to win.
Shall we do a word at a time collaboratively?
Yes,
so that
tell me everything.
We're inhabiting that space of not wanting to be in control or needing to be in control, but enjoying that we each have influence and are listening to each other to develop a fresh story.
Yes.
Because there's benefits to that. This is my proposal, to enjoying influence but not having control, that will connect with what is success and how do we get to it.
Let's do it.
Okay. Shall I choose an item that I can see?
Yes, let's do that.
Okay. I can see a coffee cup.
My
Coffee
cup,
is
huge.
This
Cup,
is
beautiful.
I
Love.
it
So
much.
the
Cup
is
large,
and
contains
so
delicious brand
of
coffee
that
I
have
sipped,
and
enjoyed
for
several
years.
the
Brand
delights.
me.
It's
Part
of
my
heavenly.
routine. Were we on the same page?
I think we were, but who knows?
Yeah, that's right.
We don't need to. It's
But
there.
it
It's a new
definitely-
story. It stands for itself.
Right. And it feels so it's such a great exercise because even this one where I was so focused on let the next word flow, follow Paul, there's the complexity of it, where there's the competing, like, let's make sure this is a real narrative. And that's the kind of getting it right, Jude, get it right. And also I want to support, and I also have an idea that comes to mind and think, well, there's a part of me that's like, what if that's not Paul's idea? You know, there's all these things that happen that are useful to talk about.
Yes. Yeah. So do we give too much to the other person? We need to take some share of responsibility, some commitment.
That's a good point. Like if it's a personality thing, if it's a status thing, if it's the way your organization or your relationship is organized, do you tend to do that and then feel like, oh, I don't have as much agency, I give over control, as you said? Or do I just try to drive the narrative and get frustrated, even though I'm trying to support you, but you're not trying to support me? Like there's so many dynamics that emerge. And I just remember that group with, it was more than one time that we've done that with very high level people and then the people they supervise in the same group. And this exact kind of conversation happens, but it could also happen in a family, the same kind of idea. Can I listen to my teen and let them, put their ideas equal to my ideas and then let it play out and see what happens inside myself?
This goes back to what you were saying about complexity, these complex situations. And we tend to think in binaries, you're in control or I'm in control. And it's neither of those. We both have influence. So it will play out and the dials will change and the scale will tilt. And with multiple people, even more so. So there's a mix. And if we're not thinking who's in control and that there's a single answer to that, then we are now dealing in the currency of influence, agency, complexity, and emergence.
Absolutely. And this simple game brings out all of those dimensions of how people are together. And it's a very accessible thing to do. And it's also a lot of fun. But I have seen this exact exercise done where people said nonsense. The sentences were nonsense. I mean, they did not say a word that flowed from the word before. They just didn't do it. And then when we would talk about it afterward, it was because they thought the word was funny or they thought, talk about staying in control. They were just going to I'm going to wrestle this whole 5 group of people into the lane that I have chosen. And it creates nonsense. But you can do this without shaming anyone, without making somebody feel bad. But say, well, how, what story did you guys actually get? How far did we get?
So there's a choice in how we debrief any activity. So we can look for what did work, which is what I'm advocating, or we could look for what didn't work, which quite a lot of facilitators will do, and they have their reasons. But they're very different discussions that you get at the end of that. So a discussion of what works gives you tips and tools and reminders of getting it better next time, making progress. Whereas what didn't work leads to blame, disappointment, frustration, feelings of inadequacy, and no useful tips other than don't do that, which you probably already knew anyway was a thing not to do. So this is a significant choice, and this is where the spot success comes from. What do you do if the story didn't work at all? I have a principle that eases us towards this spotting of success, which is a principle of disposability. If something gets stuck, stops, falters completely for some reason, we dispose of it. And I'm doing a throwing something over my shoulder sign. And I teach people this right at the beginning. I did a first session with a new group yesterday. Within 15 minutes, we did a throw it over your shoulder, because it's improv. We're making it up. There's nothing there. We can chuck it and another one's coming along in a moment.
Beautiful. Disposability.
Yeah.
I love that. I have said to people in classes that I'm teaching, we'll sweep the stage. It's empty now. Now it's like a blank page and we're going to write something new. And it's a little bit of the same thing, but you literally are saying, throw it over your shoulder and now it's gone. It's over. That doesn't mean that the lessons of it are over, though, because from that, we'll say, oh, you know what? I'm going to try to listen a little more closely. I'm going to be more aware of the resistance I have to saying small words, for example, or not being the center of everything. That's a big one when we're doing improv exercise, like not being the one in control, not being the one running the event. I was teaching a class last night online, and we did an exercise, which I'll briefly describe. In this exercise, two people are in a world. I think we were in the Magic Kingdom, and they're having a little moment. And then they'll say, oh, look at those two people over there. They look like they're really in love or something. And then the two people become those two people, and they do a scene. And my scene partner and I were assigned, oh, look at that couple. They look like they've been together for 50 years. And so when we came on, I said, here you go, honey, here's your statin drug. Open your mouth. I'm going to give it to you like Holy Communion. And she did. And then I said, here's a muscle relaxer, dear. And so I kept giving her medications, and she just kept receiving them like I was dropping them in her mouth. Then we were laughing and we had to stop. But we created a pattern. And then she said, 5 years ago or when I really just started doing improv, because we were just gifted that and had to start doing it immediately. She said, I would have been so confused. You're giving me medication. Maybe I'm sick. What's wrong with me? And she said, instead, I just said yes. And I received it in this weird Holy Communion kind of way. And that became our pattern. And she said, I realized that I don't have to be on. I have to be in. And I think that's what you're describing. It's about, I think a lot, like you have this in your book about that we think of improv as this difficult thing, this thing we have to do that we're going to do that's tough, and we have to be funny or on. And instead, what it is being with other people, really with them. And then when neither one of us in that scene were in control, we had so much fun and richness and an actual flow, which is the whole idea. The whole idea is creating flow. Yeah,
lovely. Something you said about that creates the possibility for that to happen, that's relevant in these kinds of organizations with hierarchies, is that if we're doing an improv workshop, everything we're doing is breaking hierarchies. So a circle game, whatever the circle game, it's short turn taking. In turn, everyone's got the same length. And your structure is encouraging equality, invitation, and contribution. And I'll make sure that that is not scary to a group by saying, while we're inviting people to participate, if there's something you don't feel comfortable to do, it's okay not to do it. So nobody's being forced into anything. But the invitation is there, and the structures are highly participative and very equal, with short turns being built in. Yeah, you can have a long jazzy solo now and again, but mostly it's ensemble. And so you're breaking hierarchies through the whole nature of the event and all the processes that you're doing within it, as well as with the discussions that you might have about power or hierarchy, if that's the topic.
Breaking hierarchies really does challenge us on such a subconscious level. The therapist in me can't help but think how much we are operating with hidden hierarchies that we've internalized. So if somebody who has and by someone, I mean me, but if someone's put in a leadership position that's internalized, like, well, I'm safer not being the decision maker. I'm much safer if I'm not the decision maker. But now I'm leveled up into a decision-making role. That's a hidden hierarchy based on my background, right? That was a big challenge for me, just personally. But I've seen that. I've worked with people like in therapy where even being a parent, you're the decision maker, love. You're the CEO of your family right now. But that hidden hierarchy of, no, I don't know anything, that's one. Either the hidden hierarchies of I'm in control and I need to be in control, or I don't want to be in control.
Yeah. But in families, it's really obvious, isn't it? When the children are very little, yeah, you are in control. But growing up for you and for them is the gradual or timely relaxation of those controls. And of course, it's not easy, and they become teenagers or whatever. It can be tough at any age. But when we get to a desirable, workable adult relationship, assuming we can get to that, then that's wonderful. And the hierarchy has gone. Of course, there's still seniority. There can be respect. There can be respect for the energy and vitality of the younger ones. None of that's thrown away. But we have a way of working together, of being together and talking together that is much more improvisational, less structured and hierarchical, and more enjoyable and productive for it.
I love the idea that improv has these applications to just all human relationships. And when you said the thing about disposability of something that just didn't go that well, that's a wonderful skill for parents to think about their own role, like their own success or things didn't go that well. And also with the kid of any age, let's talk about it and let's say, okay, let's toss that try. You had a go. Now we're going to toss that one. I love that idea.
One of the subheadings in LifePass is join the anti-perfectionist league. And we're countering perfectionism that goes with this whole idea of control and that the world is more certain than it really is. And it just relaxes things so much to not to have to be perfectionist. Good enough is good enough. There's the great book, A Good Enough Parent, Bruno Bettelheim. But good enough in any circumstance is something that I bring in a lot in organizational work, because the ideal of perfection is unnecessary in almost everything they do. Maybe if it's a legal document or a complicated landing of an aircraft, yes, we want it to be perfect. But almost everywhere, there's degrees of good enough: surgery, education, communications, leadership. So let's apply that. So a different level of working with a lot less anxiety attached. And it's partly from releasing ourselves from this idea that there is perfection and control that we can somehow magically exercise.
Yeah, the real magic, as you just said, the real magic is being able to apply your expertise and skill and knowledge in situations where you have to think on your feet and completely make a new set of plans without knowing ahead of time. That's more like what life actually is.
Yeah, life is improvisation.
Yes.
Ooh, it's good.
Ooh, should coin that phrase.
Do you want to do another activity?
I would love to.
Would you like to do an activity that takes us further with the influence and control idea, or one that's about spotting successes? And we can do both, depending on time.
Let's try to do them both. And let's start with the influence and control, because we're there, and then we can, yeah.
Okay. So I'll describe it briefly. So here's an activity for taking a bit further this concept of influence as a reality against control, which is an illusion. And I'm going to say I need three things and list three things that I need. You'll take the last of those three things as the first in your list of three things that you need, and so on back and forth. We'll start doing it and then we'll add the variations.
Okay.
So I need a table, a chair, and a pencil.
I need a pencil, a piece of paper, and a ruler.
I need a ruler, a window, and a gardener.
I need a gardener, a hoe, and a pair of binoculars.
I need a pair of binoculars, a telescope, and a yard of string.
I need a yard of string, some wrapping paper, and tape.
Okay. So that's it. And everything is right. There are no wrong choices. And again, we can play in our own minds with it as we're doing it, as to keeping the things close to each other. And are we responding and being influenced by what the other person says, or taking things further and being more expansive as we get maybe more confident and creative, and spend less attention to what the other person's providing? So where are we putting the focus? Is it in the middle here, or is it at each of our respective ends? And you get very different results from which way you choose to play it. And you see both of those happening in groups.
Right. I felt like when you said the gardener, and then I was like, I got the gardener, the hoe, and then I was watching the gardener, and I felt like, wait, I don't know what even occurred to me. I was going to help the gardener and then watch the gardener.
You've got a nice coherent story going on there. And some people are, how random can I get? They think that's creative, and it's a form of creativity. But somebody in this workshop I was doing yesterday said, "Oh, I'm just doing household items." I said, "That's fine. That's going to be the basis of good scene work later."
Good point. That's right. So that kind of addresses the issue of people thinking you have to be on instead of in, as my student said. So connecting and making those connections, that's a wonderful way to make those choices.
Yeah. And again, you can do it without any kind of beating yourself up or anyone criticizing anyone else. These are options and choices that are available within the freedom that game offers. And it's something you can notice and maybe choose to do differently another time to extend your range of how you operate as an improviser or as a person.
Yes.
Is the conversation in the pub or the club all about you and the things you want to talk about? Or can you engage in a more sharing way with what's going on with the other people?
Love it. Yes. So is there a level up to that exercise, or what do you want to do next?
I think we've made the point. I mean, we could do it where we keep it tight, or do it where we make it expansive. I don't know if anyone wants or needs to hear that. What do you think?
Well, we could do it, and then if it's too much, we don't have to leave it in, but we could do it for fun. And
okay,
then
let's do it for fun. So I'm going to keep things tight, close, and connected to what you're saying. So the connection thread will be very strong.
That's what. Okay, so I'm going to try to do the same. Right. Okay.
We'll do it as version B, and then we'll do version C, where we go, oh.
Okay. Yeah, let's do. Okay. I need a curtain rod. I need a curtain and a measuring stick.
I need a measuring stick. I need a pencil, and I need a pen.
I need a pen. I need a notebook, and I need a measuring tape.
I need a measuring tape. I need some material of satin, and I need a pattern.
I need a pattern. I need cutting scissors, and I need pins.
I need pins. I need a pin cushion, and I need a level surface.
I need a level surface. I need thread, and I need a needle.
I need a needle. I need a serum, and I need an arm.
I need an arm. I need a thing that blocks the blood flow.
The old blood pressure gauge. It's never there when you need it.
I couldn't remember the word. That was very fun though, because felt very different and very focused, and then it went in a new direction.
Yeah, I suppose I haven't explained it very clearly. Because it could stay very much on the one thing, and we get all the detail of that story or that scene, or it could be a thread with continuity that's fairly obvious. Or maybe we'll do this now. It could be a thread where there's no obviousness to the continuity at all. It's just stuff in our heads.
Right, like three things. Because this one felt like we were going to make curtains. We were going to sew up some curtains.
Then I changed it.
Yeah. So let's try the other way. where we're just expansive as whatever, but as long as it's three things that go together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'd give a recommendation for this, that you just feel confident and you know that everything's acceptable in this and nobody's going to be psychoanalyzing you as to why you had those particular items in your list.
Great.
Or mine.
Right.
Shall I begin?
Yes, you shall.
Okay. I need a tree, a chimney, and a cloud.
I need a cloud, an airplane, and a pilot.
I need a pilot, I need a license, and I need a train.
I need a train, I need a ticket, and I need a magazine.
I need a magazine, I need a book, and I need Shakespeare's signature.
I need Shakespeare's signature, I need Jane Austen's signature, and I need Charles Dickens' signature.
I need Charles Dickens' signature, I need an autograph book, and I need a theatre.
I need a theater, I need an adoring crowd, and I need a review in the New York Times.
I need a review in the New York Times, a Pulitzer Prize, and an appearance on Jude Treder-Wolff's podcast.
Okay, see? Wow. I'm
The
leaving
ultimate.
it in. That was so... Wow, that one was really interesting in a different direction. I loved both of them. There were different skills for sure, different ways of using yourself. A simple game, but very different ways of using yourself. And as you said, or like all of them would give rise to interesting scenes too, and characters.
Yeah, and perceptions about yourself of, oh, I felt more comfortable doing this or less comfortable doing that. So we're getting information about how we work, which is useful at a more sophisticated level.
Wonderful. Well, do you think we have time for one more game or?
Sure, I have. This is a game of spotting successes. We've explained why I think that's highly preferable to spending more time than we need to with mistakes and failure. And if influence is our practice rather than control, then we need feedback on what's working. So spotting successes is an important skill. And this is a really lovely activity. Again, I imagine you will know it, that I learned from Sue Walden, who was one of the original members of the Applied Improvisation Network when we began it. And it's called What I Like About Your Idea.
Okay.
So it's a yes and game in the tradition of improv, applied improvisation. But instead of taking the whole thing that's offered, you select an aspect of it that you like. So you say, what I like about your idea is, and you pick the aspect that you like, and then you add your proposal, to which your partner replies, what I like about your idea is, pick what they like about it, and they then add a new element to the scene, story, or collection of ideas. Probably easier done in practice than the effort of explaining it. So we're going to decorate a room together.
Okay.
As our example. And one of us will make a single proposal about the decoration of the room that we're doing together. Do you want to start? Or would you like
I'll
me
start.
to?
Okay.
Go ahead.
I would like to paint the room a different color on the ceiling that's a contrast to the walls.
What I like about your idea is that will give variety in the vision of anyone looking at this room. And we should have a big window on the wall on the left.
What I like about that idea is there will be a lot of natural light that will come into the room that we don't currently have. In addition to that, I would like to have track lighting that only lights up when you walk past it.
What I like about your idea is that's going to be very economical. And we should have shelving on the right-hand wall.
What I like about that idea is making our book collection really centered as part of the decor of this room, putting all of our books up there. I have to add something. And also, I would like to have a lot of plants.
What I like about that idea is it brings nature into the room and so forth. So we could develop this scenario.
Yeah.
And we're picking the piece that we like. So even if we don't end up with all those things, we've now got a much better idea of preferences, and we're practicing appreciation rather than full-on accepting everything that's given to us, much of which we may not want. And practicing appreciation is fantastic in improv. I think it's what people mean when they say make your partner look good.
Exactly. I'm glad that you brought that idea in, because partners in improv are like partners and group members in any situation we're in life. That if I can appreciate why you like that, I like that too. There's a way in which we both like that. And doesn't mean, like you said, it doesn't mean we'll end up with it, but we're listening to each other and saying, your ideas count and matter, and I'm interested in them. It's an easy exercise. I mean, for some people, it might not be easy, but it's good to unpack what it was like to find something.
It's actually quite tricky for a lot of people that they can't spot the value that they're picking out, or they'll give a long re-description of what was offered to them or something like that instead. And it's about spotting value. If you're offered a box of chocolates, you're picking one from the assortment. Doesn't mean you have to eat them all, but you've got the one you want. And that's spotting the success, the thing that works.
Beautiful.
That we're going to continue to use, and we can quietly let the rest go.
Yes, because by focusing on that and expanding on that, and there's also something that happens with not only between the energy between people, but also in our brains when someone appreciates us.
Yes, it's very healthy. A couple of ideas about using this in teams or organizations. People often say, your ideas are welcome. And you mentioned earlier that there might be organizations in which that's not the case in reality. But you can make it more the case by using what I like about your idea. So if somebody comes in with a big idea about a team gathering and we're all going to go to some kind of expensive weekend away together, and that happens to be out of range of budget, we can still say, what I like about your idea is that we're going to get everyone together in the same place.
Right. You're going right for the value.
You go for the value without committing to the precise way of that value being realized. That's still to come. And I'm asked sometimes in organizations for whom this is quite novel and strange, what would happen if everyone gave too much appreciation? And I say it's never been tried.
That's what a world. Too much appreciation?
Yeah.
What? Let's try that way. Paul, I cannot thank you enough for this conversation, all these ideas, all your contributions to the world, to the applied improv world, but the world. And I just want to say a big thank you for everything. And I'm wondering, what would you like to say in conclusion here to everybody and how they can discover your work?
Well, thank you very much. I've thoroughly enjoyed our conversation and playing together, as ever. I want to say that these ways of working are accessible. There's no mystery to them at all. It's not a specialist cult. It's there for everyone, and that we all have these skills and can develop them and articulate them. And that two good ways of doing it would be to look at two of my books, Easy, which we've mentioned, and that's Improvisation for Life. And I've written a new book called Let's Improv, which is about theatrical improvisation. So going right back to those roots of working in theatre, I have an improv group that I direct in Oxford. And this is the story of 2 years or so of developing that group and how these principles work on stage for the benefit of the group and the audiences. And they're both available online and via my website, which is impro.org.uk.
I cannot wait to read this new book. Everybody find those books. Life Paths as a concept, and the book Easy makes it seem like I can do this. Thank you again so much, Paul. You really honored me by being here today.
My pleasure.
That's it for this episode of Improv in Real Life. For more info about our guest and other resources, you can visit our show notes. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please follow or subscribe wherever you listen. And if you're feeling extra generous, write us a review or share with a friend. You can also find us on Instagram at lifestage_Inc. And if you want to dive deeper into these concepts, please connect with me on Substack at Jude Treder-Wolff.
to be continued, to be continued, to be continued. We need each other now more than ever. We need creativity more than ever. I hope these games and ideas inspire you in some way, and if they do, keep it going. I will too. See you next time.